Welcome to our broadcast tonight. Director Martin Scorsese remembers master filmmaker Federico Fellini, who died earlier this week. We begin with Vanessa Redgrave. For years, she has been one of the world's most brilliant actresses and one of its most politically and socially active. She was as severely criticized for her longstanding support of the PLO as she was praised for a career full of outstanding performances, among them her Academy Award-winning portrayal of the title character in the film Julia. She won accolades for her performances in Howard's End and the 1989 Broadway production of Tennessee Williams' Orpheus Descending. Currently, she's a regular visitor to Sarajevo, where she worked with UNICEF for children's relief, and she has a leading role in a Showtime original film called They, and I am very pleased to have her here. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
After all of that, it's great to have you here. Why are you smiling? Does that mean when you hear all that, what?
No, I was just thinking, well done.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Let's talk about They first. Tell me how that came into being for you and why you chose that, and other than the fact that it sort of was an opportunity to portray a character that had some intrigue for you.
Well, basically, it was because it was about children and had a very good director, has a very good director, John Courty, Patrick Bergin, very good cast, and Valerie McAfee. I like the story very much. I've never read the original Rudyard Kipling story that it's based on.
What is it about the story that you liked?
Well, what I liked was, one, that there's the theme of the unloved children in the world, not only now, but generations, and the search of human beings who are alive, of how to make a connection with children, both alive and not alive. It takes a certain philosophical approach, and a rather sensitive approach, I think, an unusual approach insofar as it's speaking about children's spirits. And I take it to be that that any human beings, certainly children who've died very unquietly and certainly without love, leave many very agonizing feelings still in the world. And this deals with one father who's trying to make contact and find the daughter he really did love, but he never expressed his love. So it's rather about human beings trying to find a way to express their love for their children before it's too late.
Did you have a chance to do that with your father?
With my father?
Yes.
What, before it was too late?
Well, I mean, as an adult, so many people don't have, and I assume yours was a close family, but so many people don't have an opportunity to express the great, as adults, to their parents. The great love and affection and that exists between them. Too many people say, and they've been on this broadcast, say, you know, my father died too early, or my mother died too early, and I never had a chance to say all that was in my heart to them.
Well, I think that probably families under pressure, under the pressure of work, of timetables and so on, perhaps take each other for granted, although they don't want to. And then find out much later that there was many precious things they didn't know about each other and wished they had. So, I don't know, I felt close to my father, probably because of his work.
Yes.
Probably because we used to spend hours every Sunday singing around the piano. Probably because what he taught me about acting. Probably because much later on, much later on, I took it for granted, all the things he did when I was about 14 for us, but much later on I realized that he'd opened my eyes to a lot of things in the theatre, which, if it hadn't been for him, I would have been really blind, deaf and dumb as an actress.
Like what?
Well, like seeing that there's a different approach to work in the theatre, that the big production, which has got a lot of money spent on it, that there's other kinds of productions which are actually shoestring productions, sometimes done by artists who have got no money at all, that most of the great theatre in the world has come about through playwrights not being paid, through actors and actresses and designers and theatre directors getting together, working virtually for nothing. And that's how most of the great films and great theatre has come about.
Yeah. Why do you think you became an actress? I mean, was it the influence of your father?
Yes, undoubtedly. I always knew I wanted to dance or to act.
Yeah. Dance more than act?
One time dance more than act, yes.
What changed for you?
Well, I grew very tall.
And if you're very tall, you can't dance?
Well, at the time that I was at my really best training period, I was already too tall for classical dance. And at that time, the world hadn't changed, the world of culture. There was either classical dance, in which a dancer dances point technique in the old classics
there was no
of
modern
Swan
dance
Lake.
that
And we hadn't seen the great Martha Graham and Alvin Ailey and all those great dance companies. That changed things. Now there's been modern dance for quite a while.
Any regrets on your part?
No, I haven't got regrets because although I never got to spend my life dancing, which I would have loved to have done, it taught me a lot about acting in the theatre. Yeah. And since I think in the theatre you should be able to, like a good film can, you should be able to, if you had to, get rid of all the dialogue and you'd still understand what's happening to the human beings. Well, you can only do that if you understand body language and space and extension and how people relate to each other physically, as well as the words they say.
Where did you find that? I mean, did you find that through the experience of acting, or did you find that through academic training, or did you find that through
a lot of
coaches?
different ways. Certainly watching my father work with an immediacy and a total vulnerability of himself, that he wasn't working for effects as an actor, he was living and being in any moment of any given play, when he was at his very, very best. Certainly through, well, when I was 15, I saw Fellini's La Strada in Milan when I was studying Italian. And that changed my view of what film could be about, and also how stories about strange and ordinary human beings can be conveyed in a very different way, a poetic way. Seeing some of Tennessee Williams' work in Actors Studio here in New York in the early 1950s, that changed my whole approach, and that was thanks to my father. Yeah. Many people's work, a lot of American actors' work.
Like?
Well, the first actors that I saw range from Van Heflin, Paul Muni, Frederick March, that generation of greats. Joseph Schildkraut, a lot of wonderful women actresses too, Julie Harris and Shirley Booth and so on. And today I'd say, obviously, Al Pacino, a number one, Dustin Hoffman, a number one. I'm talking about actors who do both film and theatre, and put a hell of a lot into work and new ways of approaching work.
I'm going to get back to They in a moment because we have a clip from it, but let me just stay with this. You mentioned Fellini. The interesting thing is Martin Scorsese's coming here to talk about Fellini and remember him. They had a lot of correspondence and became friends and were planning to work together when Fellini died. He also was terribly moved by La Strada and had enormous influence on him as a young man, and it was the film that he wanted to show to his daughter. What was it about La Strada that sort of spoke to so many people?
I don't know, I guess an enormous longing. Longing to be able to get out of very difficult and constricting circumstances. That poetry that's in all human beings, I guess. A longing to get above all the obstacles that force us back into the dust.
Those actors who separate themselves from just being good and being great, is it because somehow they can reach and find and free up the poetry that's in them? I mean, is that the difference between greatness and just being good?
I can't give you a dictum on that.
Yeah.
I can only say that the great artists taught others who followed them that the important thing is to love the art that's in people, and not just professional actors either, and people, human beings, to look for the poetry, to look for the feelings, the thoughts, the great thoughts, great
to
deep
connect
feelings
with what's at the core
in
of
millions
people.
of ordinary people, and to give expression to those feelings and thoughts. This is what rock stars do, all the best do. This is what
the great
I think everybody does who works in the arts in one way and another.
What was it like being in your household? Did Sir Ralph Richardson drop by, and would Olivier drop by, and would they all be there for dinner talking about the theater? What was the influence of that kind of growing up?
Well, there'd be a bit of dropping by, but
be a better talking bunny.
that didn't make such an impact on me so much as being able to watch quite a lot of their work.
Yeah. Among them, did they all consider one of them to be better than the other? Was there any sense of, among Redgrave, Richardson, Olivier, Gielgud, was there a first among equals in that group?
I've no idea. I know how my father felt. He felt categorically. He said, there were many brilliant things that Gielgud had done, and my father always said, well, Gielgud set the pace in that play for that scene, and he's done it better than anyone else could, so to me it would be ridiculous if I tried to work out a different way. I'm going to follow the choices he made, because he lit the path, as it were. Yeah. That was my father's attitude.
That Gielgud was sort of first among equals.
I don't know if he was first.
But at least
he's just such a wonderful actor, and I think the good thing about actors is that on the whole, I think actors are really nice. They're not basically concerned with who's first, second or third. They're basically concerned with whether what they're doing is of some value, and the excitement of working with other good people.
Yeah.
And making something special for audiences that won't be routine.
Do you feel the power to rise to that occasion, to try to rise to that occasion no matter what you're doing, whether it is on stage or whether it is what you're doing for Showtime? I mean, are you pulled forward with the same commitment to the part? Or do some things you say, I'm just going to do this to the best of my ability, but it's not going to be a perfect Redgrave?
Well, obviously sometimes that does happen. I mean, the first thing that inspires anybody, whether it's the performers or the audience, is the material itself, right. The story itself. And with what insight, sensitivity, humour, depth of perception, that story has been told. If it's something special there, it'll inspire the actors, and they'll do their very best. If it's somewhat routine, actors will still work very, very hard, including me, to try and make it more than routine, to try and make it just something above what it basically is.
Does it get any easier?
What?
Acting.
Yes and no. It gets easier, but the fact it gets easier means that you should take nothing for granted. It gets easier in the sense that the more obstacles you've overcome, obviously, you've got more experience, more knowledge.
You've seen more occasions.
You've seen more occasions, but that also means you see another stretch of hundreds of kilometres still to go, and you always have your eye on that.
You mentioned Fellini, I mentioned Fellini, and you said you once wrote him a letter?
Yeah, I've written to him more than once, yes.
And what would they say?
Well, I'd say, Caro Maestro, you know, I'm Vanessa Redgrave, I am an actress, but I would love to work with you, and if ever there's a very small part or anything in your films, please know that it would be a great honour for me to work with you.
Did you hear back from him?
Well, I've often met him, you know.
Oh, so you knew him, so therefore...
I sort of knew him, but I wanted him to know that I really was serious about it.
It wasn't just a social meeting that you had, this other enormous... Did he ever take note of it then, in any personal encounter?
Well, I never got to be in any of his films.
Of course, I know, but did he ever say, I wish we could, I wish there was a role, I wish...
Oh, he was always very sweet, yes. He'd always say, oh, that would be wonderful, Vanessa.
Yes.
But we didn't.
Tell me about they. We're going to see a scene here in which Patrick Bergin meets you for the first time. Set it up for me so that the audience, which hasn't seen the early part, will... Can you set it up for me?
Yeah, I think I can. There's this father, played by Patrick Bergin, and his child has been killed. And he's just really torn with remorse that before he was having an argument before she was killed, and he never got a chance to say all the things he really felt straight to her. And he's come in search of her. And without realising, he meets this woman who he thinks is a bit crazy, and she's blind. And suddenly realises that she seems to know something he doesn't.
Roll tape.
I'm out here.
sorry to bother you. I'm here because of your house, actually. It's very interesting. You see, I'm an architect. It bears a striking,
resemblance
yes.
to
A drawing.
by one of your colleagues.
No, by one of my daughters.
Oh, how lovely. I wish I could see it. Is she with you?
Oh, no.
She's dead.
How did you know that?
Why, you just told me.
Do you believe in clairvoyance?
I don't believe in clairvoyance, but I do believe that human beings are capable of understanding and seeing and hearing a lot more than we actually customarily do.
Yeah.
I think perhaps all human beings could have, I think what's called seventh sight isn't something supernatural. It can be explained by the difference between 1950s microphone and a microphone of 1993 that can pick up echoes from the other side of the world. Human beings can do that too, otherwise they wouldn't be able to make microphones like that.
And so, and the seventh sense allows you to do what? To understand?
To really listen, really look, and to really think, and to really share, and be human.
How, and has that made a difference in your acting, having that?
Well, I haven't got that.
You don't think you have it?
No.
Just some people that are
But
gifted
I reach
have
out for it.
Yeah, some people have it.
I think everybody reaches out for it. That's what films and theatre and music and painting and poetry is about.
Connecting you with that.
Mm-hmm. Dame Edith Evans is a wonderful English actress. She's dead now, but she said once to me, every single person could by nature be a genius. It's our problem that all human beings aren't. Geniuses are what all human beings could be and should be. And as soon as she said that, I've seen the world in that perspective, and I've believed in it, and everything I've seen has confirmed that point of view.
That we all have the capacity to be much more than we are.
To be really special. Everybody's got it in them. But the majority of people in the world, and certainly the majority of children, are totally deprived by our world and by our governments and by the problems of putting politics before human contact and considerations of the young people especially. That is not happening, as we all know.
Tell me about going to Sarajevo and why you went and what
well, I
moved you to
went
be
there
there
because of UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund. I went all over former Yugoslavia. I went to see the work that UNICEF are doing because of several proposals of how we could help and how especially artists could help. And in Sarajevo I saw that what's made it possible for 18 months of citizens to resist the shelling, the siege, the lack of food, the destruction, being killed and continuing even as we speak, was number one, the artists and how they work together with the people and the kids and the culture that they fight to keep alive, whether it's in form of video or radio shows. Every morning there's a 2-hour radio show produced and directed by kids in Sarajevo. It's heard by all the citizens.
Young kids, like 10,
14,
11,
15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
Dance programs, dance groups. There's a musical called Hair. There was some financiers and people that wanted to bring the company out and so it could tour the United States, but the governments of both America and the EEC haven't understood that culture is as vital as any kind of food or medicine or
And
drugs.
and how do they, the fact that they haven't understood that is reflected in the fact that they have not come to the aid of the Muslims in Bosnia?
Well, we shouldn't talk about Muslims
Okay,
in Bosnia.
we'll talk about
we should
the
talk
Bosnians.
about Bosnians.
Okay.
All the artists I met, you know, to me, I just keep thinking of King Solomon. You remember two women brought a baby
Right,
and
he had to
said,
make
King
the choice
Solomon,
of the wisdom of King Solomon.
which of us does it belong? And he said, all right, why don't you cut the baby in half? And he waited to see which mother would. And he said to them, one woman said, no, I'm not going to touch this baby. It's better that she goes with the other mother than this baby be cut in half. And King Solomon said, okay. To the woman who didn't want to cut the baby in half, should go the child. You can't divide up citizens who've come from mixed marriages. These artists, they're Serb, they're Croat, they're Muslim. The youngsters are Serb, Croat, Muslim. And anybody who tries to divide these people is committing a really dangerous ethnic cleansing policy, whether they like it or whether they don't. What's wonderful about UNICEF is that not only that they work very, very hard and at great personal sacrifice, but they have a perspective. Children have to have kindergartens. If they're in zones of war, they have to have puppet theatres. They have to be able to perform themselves and listen to performances.
But let me come back to what the governments of Europe and the United States should have done. What should they have done to come to the aid of the Bosnians in order to protect the civilization and protect the children? Where did the governments fail, and what should they have done? Because clearly we all know who was trying to divide them. It was, I mean, the sense of who was the villain was clear, and who's doing the shelling is clear.
I don't think we can solve anything if we speak about the villains of the piece. We certainly, most people know that about the siege,
right,
and where the guns, and
right,
where did the guns come from? They came from Karadzic's Serbian fascists. Right. But there's quite a few fascists in our world, and they're not all Serbians. Some of them are Croats. There's others as well. To my mind, we've got to get away from the issue of the governments involved, and we've got to say, look, there's 3.5 million refugees in former Yugoslavia. That's half of the refugees left in Europe at the end of World War II. Over 2 million of them are children. Most of those children are 13, 14, 15 years old. Mm-hmm. What are we going to do to help these children? And put these children first, and not make a distinction whether they're this or that or the other. What's special about Sarajevo is that for centuries people lived together, 4 different religions. There's a temple, there's a mosque, there's a synagogue, there's an Orthodox cathedral, a Catholic cathedral, in the very, very heart of Sarajevo. All the people lived and worked together. And we've got to see that there's quite a lot of monsters who want to divide these people and destroy them. And for me, it's neither here nor there. It's for people should know the names of monsters. But really, basically, the siege should be lifted of any civilians under siege.
But it's easy to say
and
that.
children should be helped.
Yeah, everybody believes what you just said.
But well, they don't do it, so
okay, but that's the point.
It.
But well, no, it's not. I mean, the point is what should be done. To say that you don't think where the differences come is how to go about it and who's willing to take the political action to do it, or the military action to do it, to lift the siege. To lift the siege is not, you're not going to do it by polite request. To lift the siege, you've got to exert some kind of pressure on Karadzic and also on the Serbs who were part of the shelling of Sarajevo. And governments in Europe and the government in the United States.
Because there's a lot of Serbs who are totally opposed to what's happening.
Of course they are, but we're talking about the government. We're talking about the government, and those governments are reflected by the leadership that we talked about.
Yeah, but we've also got governments in the West that are going along with ethnic division and are putting forward policies like the present plans that have been discussed at Geneva for dividing Bosnia into ethnic enclaves. What does this do? It increases the power of those who want greater this, greater that, greater something else.
Greater Serbia and all that.
And it creates more problems for all the people, whether they're Muslim, Serb or Croat. So that plan is a disaster from the
but
beginning.
here, let me just, one simple question. Would you support force to stop? I mean, would you, for all of your political activism, say, you know, because the issue here and the cruelty to children and to a civilization, I'm going to stand up and say whatever force is necessary to stop the shelling ought to be used against the government that's using.
Let me take history. When the Soviet blockade took place of Berlin in 1948, the 3.5 million inhabitants of Berlin.
Right.
For 12 months, the United States and the British Air Force flew in enough food and fuel for 3.5 million. The blockade was lifted. In fact, there wasn't a war between the Soviet Union, America, and Europe on that question. Why? In my view, basically because they knew that nothing was going to stop the bringing in of enough aid to keep that city alive and stop the blockade, and the blockade was halted. Of course that entails being ready to shoot anybody, it doesn't matter who stops aid going through to civilians. And if you are ready to come to the aid of civilians, and I think that could be the only point of there being soldiers around, otherwise everyone should step aside.
Let me ask two other political questions. One,
I think there are other answers and questions as well. I just want to say we may not get...
Einstein, I do, and because of limited time, I can't explore all of them.
Yes,
Let me just,
sure.
Are you optimistic now about the Middle East and what might happen as a result of the first step with the Israeli PLO Accord?
Well, that's a great achievement. That's a really great achievement, because those leaders and all the people who have produced that agreement...
on both sides.
On both sides, which includes many artists who've worked very hard, which includes many Israeli peace movement people like Abi Natten.
Right.
It's a great achievement. It's an enormous breakthrough. I personally support it totally, and I think I would feel that everybody's got to do their utmost to help in every possible practical way those leaderships come together and to carry through what the peace accord has said they'll set out to do. They've set about it in the right way. There are those who are trying to break it. We must all give these leaders, the Israeli and the Palestinian leaders, who want this peace to go through, all our possible support.
Do you ever expect to run again for the British Parliament?
I don't know. You can't rule out anything.
Is it something?
What I'm really trying to do is to encourage people to say, what can I do, which is what everybody's saying, and say, OK, here's what we can do. We can't tell governments to do the political things. They make their choices. We may agree, we may disagree. What we all can do is go into the field ourselves. If we're artists, which obviously is what I'm really concerned with, we can go in and we can help the children with what we could call cultural first aid, cultural emergency aid. Join with the artists, go to Sarajevo, go to former Yugoslavia, work with UNICEF, not just to raise the money, and they really need money, but let's see how development programs of UNICEF for former Yugoslavia could be adopted in our own cities. You've got a fantastic program, Channel 13 are supporting right now, Students' Arts Festival. New York is the centre of culture, perhaps in one sense, of the whole world. And we've got to take that culture to Sarajevo, share our culture, not only in Sarajevo, in every city of the world. We mustn't let barriers come and break us up into ethnic peoples, minorities, majorities. You and I, all the people you've ever met round your table, we've got to meet in homes all around the world, round the table, talk to each other, share things, sing and dance together.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great to see you.
Okay, thank you.
Coming up, Martin Scorsese talking about and remembering in appreciation Federico Fellini.